we can't put our identity in anything that can be taken away from us. Everything we know and everything we pour into what we do for so long is the fire service and being a firefighter. And so hopefully eventually retire. Well, what are you then?
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the First Things First, a show where we talk about setting your priorities in the right order to help you fall in love with the job again. Today, I am joined by my friend Jeremy Sanders. Jeremy, welcome, brother.
Thanks, buddy. I'm very excited to be on here. It's just cool to see new people coming on and doing things that they're passionate about, especially when you're brave enough to incorporate, faith and family and a lot of the things that it's just not talked about enough. So I'm excited to be a part of that journey with you. Thank you.
With that, I'm just gonna open up to you and let you tell us a little bit about who you are, where you're from. Tell us a bit about your family, and if you want to get into a little bit, how you got into the fire service.
Yeah, absolutely. So I live on a small farm up in close to Tulsa with my beautiful wife, and at one time 8 kids, but a lot of those have aged out of our system and moved out. But still got a few at home, and actually we're very blessed enough to have our oldest daughter, her husband, and our grandson move in with us about a year and a half ago. So that's been really cool to see him almost every day and to to be able to be as much of a part of his life as that's been. So it's been really cool. We have kind of been through waves of animals. At one time, we had hundreds of animals. We got rid of everything because my wife got tired of them all and went a couple years without animals. And now she has gotten us back into ducks and chickens. So we've got ducks and chickens running out our ears, and I've been working on fixing up pens and things for like that. So just a lot going on, and that's aside the point of having a career where I'm gone 24 hours a day every third day. So it's a lot, and but I love it now. I love being out where we're at. We're not in the middle of nowhere, but you can't hardly see anybody else. You definitely can't hear much of anything, and it's just nice. We really enjoy it, and so that's kind of the family thing. Like I say, with lots of kids, but you know, that's it's not near as stressful as it was. Well, I guess that's not true at all. The stress comes in different areas now. Now you have older kids to be concerned about. So, but it's been nice. We are a blended family. That's it's easy to get a big family really quickly with a blended family. But we've been married 10 years now, and so you know, just along the way trying to figure things out. I don't know that there's anything harder than being a step parent in a blended family, especially when you come into it with teenagers. There's been a lot of learning experiences for me. I've messed up way more than I would care to admit to, but it's been fun. So that's family. I work for a department, Central Oklahoma, that I've been there for almost 23 years now. Be 23 in July. We'll probably bounce around to that quite a bit throughout this conversation, but it's been up and down and everywhere. Like I would think it's pretty safe to say is for anybody. Anybody, especially that has served for 20 plus years. Uh, I don't know of anybody that has been that long that hasn't at least had some downs. I mean, hopefully there's more ups than downs, but yeah, it's been a little bit everywhere as far as the career goes too. right now I'm driving, so driver app, op, driver operator, apparatus operator, whatever your department calls it, but that's what I'm currently serving at, which it's definitely not the route that was planned to get there, but I'm enjoying driving fire trucks. I don't know who wouldn't. So it's a good job, but that's uh that's the job. I know that obviously you described what you are about and what this is about. So the other piece of that is faith. You know, like I've kind of been honest on a couple other podcasts. We aren't a big church family. It's that's not something that is just a cornerstone for us, but faith and spirituality is definitely huge, and especially for me. I've been through some stuff over the past 20 years, and there's no way that I would be sitting here right now if it wasn't for being watched over and for that guiding light and the path that is laid in front of me, and really the faith that I thankfully have had in that path to keep going. So again, this is just an intro. I'm not trying to explain everything. I know we'll get into a lot of that other stuff in a little bit, but that's about it.
Great intro. I mean, putting family first, obviously God first. It is one of my values, and I totally empathize with you with the animals. The we've had chickens, we've had ducks. We unfortunately had to get rid of our chickens and ducks. We live in a street called Fox Chase, so we
For
had
a reason.
lots of foxes come in, and we had to explain to the kids all the time. How come there are chickens missing.
They
So
start disappearing.
yeah, so we're busy, and then you talk about sports schedules and schools and plays, and
Yep.
so it's I can only imagine having a family that big. I have three, having eight. you know how uh how a household, how our schedule even looked.
Yeah.
With that, and then you throw our schedule in the fire department in with our family and trying to figure out when I can attend the school play, which games I can make, can I take off for this family vacation. One of the things of my platform is we have to put the right things in the right order, right? And if we start prioritizing a bunch of things when everything is a priority, nothing is a priority. So how do you prioritize God, family, yourself, and trying to put the fire department in that mix? How do you manage all that?
Well, the easiest way to answer that is not well. I'll say that it is a constant battle for me, and I think that it's probably always been that way, but especially in the 5 6 years that I've been kind of doing all this other stuff, this crew first stuff, it's it's made it even infinitely more complicated because there's even another layer to it, and there has been multiple times where I've had the basically not seriously come to Jesus meeting from my wife, but hey, we need to look at where time is going here, and priorities and things like that. So I'm thankful to have that accountability to bring me back to as close to center as I can be, from time to time, because it's 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 as close to impossible as I would imagine anything is, because it's not like I'm trying to choose from, one thing that is really important and one thing that's just really stupid. It's like there's three or four things that need to be done now, and that are important now, and that either myself, my wife, or my kids have emotional ties in some way. There's always something to it, and especially, like I said, the difficulty of adding the crew first stuff into it. I think what has made that so difficult for me is it would be one thing if this is just some, side project I'm doing because I enjoy putting myself out there and getting likes and attention. It's the furthest from the truth for me. I outside of those things, I don't talk a lot. I'm fairly quiet. I tend to keep to myself probably more than the average person. So that's not why I'm doing it. Why I'm doing it is because the same reason you would probably say you are. I feel called to do it. I feel like the things that I have to say and share are of the message that I've been given to do that with. And I feel like, you know, it is my part of my purpose, which we'll get into some more, I'm sure, but it's part of my purpose to do that. And so when you add kind of that intensity to that, it's it's hard to not say, well, I mean, this really it's more of a priority than it looks to somebody else. Does that kind of make sense? I mean, to my wife, if I didn't explain all that, it's just he's in there talking to his buddies on the computer or recording stupid crap that it doesn't matter. Well, I understand how it's easy to be seen like that, but there's so much more to it. And so that has definitely made it hard for me to, find that balance. And like you say, I mean, you could do nothing on the side, and it's already a mess with sports and family activities and things like that. And if your spouse works, what does that look like? My wife has had to take a job that she would probably rather do something else with a couple times in the 10 years we've been, or 12 years basically, we've been together because of my schedule. And that's just how it almost has to be. It's like I can't change my schedule. It doesn't matter what I want to do with my schedule. It's there. And even changing jobs, that's one thing that I really, it it kind of sucks about the fire service is if you've been on more than, five, especially 10 years somewhere, it's really, really hard to just drop that and go somewhere else. And especially somebody that's been on 15 or 20, it just, you, you got to be in a really bad spot, or it just has to be something that has to happen if you're changing, you know, jobs or departments that long. And so it's been something that, I mean, I feel bad that's the way things have played out, but there's some things you can control and some of these things you can't. And so that's kind of where it has to start. I think the uncontrollables, they're there. We've got to work around those. Then you just, the best answer I could say, and the best thing that I have to weigh things with is I can only do the best I can. If it's going to one kid's game one day and another day, and then working and missing something, that's the best I can do sometimes. And so, just almost has to be a daily adventure, just trying to figure this stuff out. But that I feel like as long as you are in the mindset of that is your thought process, you're actually weighing these things and you're actually on purpose making these choices. I think that's about the best you could do sometimes. I mean, we're not just letting life happen to us. We're not just kind of doing whatever we want. I mean, we're trying to do the best we can with what we have, and I feel like that's about as good as it gets sometimes, especially for the complications that our careers and family life bring.
Yeah, this is definitely a life of service and sacrifice, and I think that sometimes, especially when we get into it, we forget that we love doing the job, we love what we do, but there are definitely some drawbacks to it. A lot of times we have our wives acting like single parents in our absence. As you said, it's really good to either have a podcast or go to the firehouse and be able to do what you love and share that with with the men and women in the fire service. But our families definitely feel that as well. But I wanna take you back to the first day that you step foot in the firehouse, or the first day that you're lined up in recruit school, getting ready to start your career. That love, that passion that you had for the job, were you able to carry that throughout your career, or did you feel like at one point in your career you lost the love for the fire department?
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say probably not even once. I would say it's been several times. Uh, I just fell into the fire service. I didn't I didn't grow up loving and just dying to be a firefighter. I didn't know anything about it, and I just happened to work with a couple brothers that were firefighters, and listening to them talk about it, it sounded fun. I hated what I was doing. I was doing pipeline construction, and thought I'd give it a try. It just happened that the department that I'm working for was hiring close to that time. I applied one time, and it was like 900 something people for, I believe, 15 spots, something like that. And just like I said, fell into it. It's where God wanted me. There's no reason there's no reason that me with what I brought to the table at that time was the person that got chosen outside of God. There's just no way. But so that being the case, going into rookie school, I didn't know. I didn't know anything. Was looking forward to starting something new, but I didn't have the excitement of, oh, you know, I can't wait to do what I'm going to do. I didn't know. By the time that was over, I did have that excitement. Obviously, I was ready to go and and very just open eyed and ready to do and learn anything I could. But like you said, yeah, I mean, and I think early on, probably the first 10 years of my career, the lows, the times that spark was gone, was probably due more to home life. You know, had a lot of issues at home that I was dealing with. Had young kids that basically being a single parent of at different times, you know, one, two, another time. And at towards the end of my first marriage, I was a single parent of four kids. And so there were times in there for sure that I came to work and I didn't have anything to give. I didn't, I just didn't. And it really wasn't even anything to do with the fire service that caused that. Then it was everything that else that was sucking, you know, the life out of me away from there. But I would say the second half of my career, you know, the next 10 years, it was flip flop. I had a lot of stress at home, obviously, with what I've already explained to you about. But it was good stress. It was good family things. It was a good environment. However, the work environment had definitely changed, and the work environment was now becoming what was sucking instead of, you know, my home life. And so, yeah, like I said, there's been a lot of times, and just being trying to be as honest as I can to help as many people as I can. I'm there right now. I am in a place where I've kind of described it before. I'm just trying to claw my way to hang on to the fire service right now, and I don't like it. I hate it. You know, I just told one of my friends that I is on my crew yesterday on shift that I have found myself several times here lately just feeling like I've got basically a choice to make, and both decisions suck. Either one way, I keep pushing and I keep just on the same path that I'm going on, and it's gonna just tear me apart mentally eventually, emotionally, everything, or I just disconnect for a while and I become the guy that is just kind of in the shadows and is just there, which there's plenty of. But I don't want to be that guy. I don't. It makes me sick to my stomach to think about it. But that's what sucks about when we are put in situations like that. It's like, what other option is there? Like I said, I've got 23 years on. I'm not going anywhere unless it's for good. So it's just one of those things, man. It's just you have storms. You have to make it through. Sometimes those storms come at times where it's like, man, it, I almost feel like there's another path for me that doesn't include the fire service, and it's getting closer and closer and closer, and that's okay. And so, yeah, I think that we all struggle from time to time with that, and to varying levels. I mean, obviously, there's some people out there that probably haven't dipped as low as I have, but I guarantee there's a lot of people out there that hadn't been as high, on that roller coaster that I have either. So that's kind of the best way I can answer that.
I think that we all have those same struggles, those times of doubts. And I believe that it's easier for us to be able to deal with that when we don't put our whole identity in the fire service. And you have spoken about that before, how we can't put all our emotions, all our feelings, all our purpose in being a firefighter. So as you get closer, as you are trying to figure out what the next step for you is in a couple of years, can you talk a little bit about how important it is for us to not completely put our identity in the fire service?
We can't put our identity in anything that can be taken away from us. That doesn't it doesn't matter what it is. If it's the fire service, if it's driving fancy cars, living in a big house, if it's whatever, having a mohawk, what eventually you're not going to have a mohawk. So everything you invested in yourself and who you are was that person. As goofy as it sounds, it's no different. And the fire service, and I think, I was never in the armed forces, so I'm real careful to not, you know, bring the two together. But I feel like those in the armed forces kind of have a similar difficulty once they, get out of service and go back to the real world. Everything they knew, everything they were for so long was military. Everything we know and everything we pour into what we do for so long is the fire service and being a firefighter. And so, yeah, it's super easy to fall into that trap. But I mean, you could be hurt any point and not be able to work again as a firefighter. Even if you're young, you could hopefully eventually retire, like, hopefully everybody does at whatever age you want to retire. Well, what are you then? Hopefully it's not, I'm a retired firefighter. Hopefully it's something else. I mean, for me, that's something that this identity, the purpose conversation, all these things in that kind of realm weren't even weren't even crossing my mind until I was in my 40s, just probably 5 years ago. And that's one of the most important reasons for me to share this as much as I can, so that people in their 20s can start hearing this conversation and start thinking about it, because I wish 20 years earlier I was thinking about it and realizing that I needed to figure out who I was, and who I was not a firefighter. Who I was not, this or that. It's so much deeper than that, and it has to be. And so even even just last year, I I had been pretty confident in the identity and the purpose of my life, and things took it took a right turn that I would have never ever saw coming. And just to kind of to give a little bit of background for those that haven't heard me talk, I was a captain for about 6 years and had a crew that, man, I invested everything I had, emotionally, mentally, time, energy, everything I had into them, and they invested as well, and we literally changed the worst crew on the department to, I would argue, every day of the week the best crew on the department. It took every bit of at least 4 years to get there, but by that 6 years, I mean, we were really, really reaping the rewards of all that hard work. And early last year, I got repurposed, is what I started calling it. I was repurposed to the rank of firefighter. I was not basically, I was triple demoted, taken as far down and away from any kind of authority or supervision that I possibly could. And I I realized really quickly that even though I thought I had a good handle on the identity and the purpose, you know, conversation for my life, I had a lot of holes in it. And the question that, I've spoken on my podcast about and shared a few times, I struggle with journaling. I've tried to start journaling probably 60 times in the past 5 years. But at this time, I was doing pretty good. I journaled pretty regularly through that time. And that day that the demotion happened, I wrote in there, who am I? Am I any different as firefighter Sanders today as I was 24 hours ago as Captain Sanders? And just sitting there looking at that and thinking about it, just letting it just soak in and really, really just reflect on it as much as I could. The answer is no, I'm not any different. I am the same person. It doesn't require anything in front of my name to, validate anything that I have to say. I don't care what people think about me or my work or my anything. I know what I'm doing is what needs to be done. I've 100%. Anything that I share, I feel like it was given to me to share. I'm not somebody that's just gonna blab about stupid crap. I'm not a war story guy. I'm not a rumor mill spreader. I just, if I have something to say that I feel like it has been given to me to share, that's what I'm going to share. And so I had to really kind of come to terms with, man, I guess I guess that captain meant a lot more to me than I thought it did. And so there was a lot of layers to that, just figuring out kind of what that looks like. And it went back to that statement, I had an identity problem because part of who I was wrapped up in a rank that I no longer had. And so I had to realize really quickly that I got to fix that. There is no other solution. There is no going back to it. I had to fix me. That was a me problem. And so the last, it's been a little over a year now since that happened. And the last 13 months it's been hard. I mean, it has been one of the hardest periods of my life. Without a doubt, some of the hardest events of my life, happened in that time, and just working through things and really kind of coming to terms with the role of informal leadership, which I'm so thankful to have that. I just put a post out the other day, and it's obviously very emotionally tied to me and my story about, leadership doesn't require permission. I'm not asking anybody if I can be a leader. I don't care who says what. I, I literally can say that people can strip everything away from me that they want to and that they have the power to, rank and power and authority and response, whatever you want to call it. But there is nobody out here that is going to take away my ability to lead. Nobody. And that is something that became really empowering for me. It truly became kind of a rally cry that is what I have to hang on to. And I started to enjoy it. I feel like I took advantage of kind of the situation I was given and learned a lot of things and was able to be placed in a new crew that, with new people that I had the opportunity to have an influence on, and some great things happen. And, it just feels like kind of the past couple months, I've hit that plateau of working so hard to get through all of that. And now, kind of like I said earlier, it's just like, I'm really starting to miss, having my own crew and having the ability to make a better standard than what is minimally barely required be the thing that we operate off of. That's what I miss. I don't care to have authority over anybody, but I do care to have authority over the level of preparedness that my crew is. That's what I truly miss. And so, yeah, I mean, identity is huge. Identity is huge as well for crews. That's something else that I really I love to talk about, because I don't think a lot of people realize that. When I came to that crew, one of the first things that we did was we kind of got together and created a station logo. We created coins and shirts, and I mean, those things are just they're just physical things, but those things are what started to bring us together. They started to give us something to fight for as a crew, and that's the identity. That culture that we just slowly started to create, and everything kind of builds on top of it. But it all has that firm foundation in the identity of, if you're looking at yourself, your identity and your purpose of why you're here, or if you want to look at it in the realm of firehouse or organizational culture, is, what is that identity of the crew, and what is the purpose that you're serving every day. And I think that if you don't know those two things, both either personally or as a crew, you're going to really struggle to get any headway in any direction. It's like the quote, and I don't know who says it, but if you're sailing and you don't have any direction that you're going, well, there's no wind that's favorable. It doesn't matter which direction the wind is blowing. If you don't know where you're going, it's not helpful. And so I think that is a really important piece to find personally, or as a crew, to really start to build off of.
I love how you married those two things together, Jeremy, where identity and purpose come together as one as well, and how we can't put our identity on anything that can be taken away. And you have said before that there's purpose in your pain, and you've just bared your soul with us with some of those things on how some of the things have happened lately in your career. So can you share with us a little bit how you have taken these things that have happened to you, that you have for a while lost your love for the job, and now you have to make sure that you're heading in the right direction, as you just said. You're making sure that your identity is in the right thing, is not just in the fire service. And you've already shared that God is a big part of your identity and who it is, and helping people and helping others. So How do you use that purpose in your pain?
So that's a lesson that I had to learn quite a while back, and where that comes from for me was it's probably been 15, 18 years ago now. I like I said, in that time period of my life, we as a family were going through a lot. I just to give some context, I was married to a prescription pill addict for roughly 12 years, 13 years, and that caused a lot of problems, obviously. And for years, I never said a word to anybody at the firehouse. Different crews, different people on those crews. Even people that I was close to, never said a word. Just suffered in silence and just tried to do the best I could. And these were during that time. These were some of those times that I mentioned earlier, where I came to the firehouse and basically I was on E. I had nothing to give anybody. And I just, one day I realized, man, everybody around here probably thinks that, who knows what they think about me, because they don't know anything about what I'm dealing with. So they see me coming in the state that I'm coming in, and the mental whatever that I was bringing with me. I can't imagine what people were thinking about me. And because nobody knew the truth, nobody knew what I was really dealing with. And just probably out of complete exhaustion, one day I took advantage of a whatever led into the conversation with one of the guys that I was closest to, and just told him about what was going on, just basically let it out. And it was obviously one of those moments where it's like, man, it was really nice to get that off, obviously, for one. But the bigger part of all that was he sat down and basically did the same for me about his life, things that I didn't know that he was dealing with. So it was like we just literally sat down and we did something that was helpful for ourselves to get it off, to get that stress off of us, and release a little pressure. But really what we were doing is we were helping each other right there by being vulnerable, being open and honest. And that day was like a turning point in my life. It was like, I'm done. I am done hiding anything. I'm done keeping it to myself. For one, there's nothing going on that I'm embarrassed about or trying to hide. I mean, it has nothing to do with me. So why would I be like this? And so that day was probably the most impactful day as far as realizing the power of openness and authenticity and transparency. All of those things are similar and different at the same time. But I just realized right then that you know I'm I'm already going through these things, or I've already went through those painful situations in the past. So I have a choice that I can keep that to myself and do nothing with it. And basically, I just went through all of that for nothing. Or I can use those situations to help others, to basically share and let people know that they're not alone, or let people know that, hey, I've been there too, and you know this is a few things that help me, or whatever. There's a million things that you can get out of it. But it took that conversation to realize that if I share my story and am honest about where I've been, and transparent, I am giving those difficult, miserable, awful, whatever situations a purpose. And it's almost like I went through them for a reason now. I didn't just go through them for nothing. And just that little piece right there was almost like another weight off of me, because I think it's so much heavier on us if we feel like we're going through these things for no reason. If it's not our fault, if it's, something that we don't deserve. And yeah, a lot of that stuff is the victimization that we need to steer far from, no matter what. But at the same time, I mean, there can be truth to that. And so giving that pain, that struggle, that the challenges, all those things, giving them purpose and using them to help others, it's almost like it takes the power away from that part of us that wants to fall into the victim role. I can't feel like a victim if I'm sitting here helping somebody with the story and the details that would make me want to feel like a victim. Does that make sense? I mean, that's the coolest thing about that is it really helps me to not fall into that trap, and it's an easy trap to fall into. So that's kind of the best way I could describe it. And I think it's important to go back to that story, and kind of share the origin of it for me. And everybody's going to have a different, reason that they share, and a reason that, they do this or that. And so it's important to really have context on the whole story.
Jeremy, I think that you embodied that with something that you have started saying at the end of your podcasts. And if I butcher it, please correct it. And I believe you say, no matter what you've been through, no matter what you've done, you're meant for more. And you're obviously somebody who likes to help others. And I believe that the word resiliency comes to mind. And you teach classes, you help people basically bounce back from difficult situations, and knowing how to get themselves in a place where they can be not only physically but also mentally and spiritually prepared to deal with these types of situations. So can you talk a little bit about that?
I can't talk about this without once again referring back to the path that was laid in front of me. It's just, I thankfully my life isn't navigated by me, because if it was navigated by me, there's just no telling where I would end up. And I'm thankful that God has given me a path to follow, as long as my eyes are open and I'm following it. But back in 2023, basically that whole year, I mean, it's like the whole year revolved around resiliency. I mean, anybody I met, anybody I talked to, anything that kind of came to me and especially was new, had something to do with resiliency. And I should have known there's a big reason for that, because obviously the very next year I would have to use every bit of what I had learned the year before that for myself. But yeah, again, I'm super, super blessed to be a part of the tactical resiliency training group that Rick George heads up. We do the 24-hour class. He changes it all the time. So I think it's developing tactical resiliency now. It's always like DRT, DTP, D something, but it is developing some type of resiliency is the name of the class. And we only do it a few times a year, which really sucks, because I wish we could get this information in more people's hands than we do. It, I, I've truly, I've never been a part of anything where, because we only have, we max out at 20 people. So it's a, we only get to touch 40 people's lives a year, basically. But I've never been a part of anything where you see 20 people show up at 8 o'clock in the morning, and at 8 o'clock the next morning, you see 20 completely different people leave. I mean, I truly 100% will say that it changes people's lives right there in a 24-hour period. It's amazing. The content and really kind of what anchors all of that content is the caliber of instructors, the people that are sharing that information with the students, and how much they pour into those students that they've never met before right away. It's amazing. But like I said, you know, unknowing to me, I just kind of fell into it. After meeting these guys, I think 3 months later, I was a part of the next class teaching it, and it, it's just interesting to me to see that as I was learning it so that I could teach it, I was really learning it so I could apply it months down the road. And just to throw out some of the main things, because I think that's kind of what you're getting at, is how to create that foundation for yourself. Obviously, if you want the whole story of this, Rick George, Dave Gillespie, and Bob Carpenter wrote a book, developing firefighter. Oh shoot, developing firefighter resiliency. I think it is. It's a Penwell fire engineering book. Again, he's changed the name so many dang times of the class. I'm probably butchering the title of that, but it's easy to find. All of Almost all of the material we teach in that class is based off of that book. So if this is something you're interested in, or really not even, just forget I said that. This is something you need to be interested in. Everybody needs to learn this. And when I say everybody, I mean everybody. I'm not talking about firefighters. There's a lot of these things that since, becoming a part of that world, I've been trying to teach my kids, in sports, in life. I mean, they're so important. And some of the biggest things is the pillar is breath work. Everything starts off of breath work. It's the number one ingredient of all of it. And we'll teach them several kinds of techniques for breath work, and really kind of lay the groundwork of how important it is, and the physiology of it, and just everything hinges off of that. If we're not breathing, we're not we're not operating at any level we need to be. And so that's obviously number one. We do a lot of work on just our inner dialogue. Rumination is something that's basically that negative self-talk that, if not all of us have, most of us have. And there's no controlling when it happens. It just comes out. But there is control of how long it stays. And so that's kind of what we focus on, is how to deal with that. Having some phrases that we go to, anchor phrases that kind of get us back centered. Or reframing is a huge one that I've learned and used myself. Taking a situation and truly stepping away from it, putting it in a different perspective, and truly looking at it from a, a perspective that's going to be helpful to you, instead of one that's going to give you anxiety or fear. There's a way to reframe anything. I am truly a true believer of that. And so that's been a big one for me in my own journey. Another big one is segmenting. Taking these things that are probably overwhelming to us in the big picture, and just breaking it down. It's the whole eating an elephant one bite at a time. Breaking things down to where it's actionable and achievable little pieces, and just start doing what we need to do next. You know, those are two really, really big ones. And it's the we incorporate a lot of yoga. We basically partner with Yoga for First Responders, and it's a great organization and owned by a couple, a husband and a wife, that we all love to death. They're super, super smart people, and just, man, they are somebody that I just can't be around enough, because I feel like I learn from them anytime I listen to them talk about anything. But So, it's just a big package of all those things and several other little techniques that we put together, and you you really don't know what you're learning and the importance of what you're learning until you're able to be put in a situation where you can apply it. And it's a big task for us as instructors in this class to make that happen in just 24 hours. I mean, yeah, that's a lot of time, but it's just one day. And so we have to really accelerate the variables of that. By that, we basically wear them down physically until they have nothing physically holding back or holding everything together. It's just the brain. It's just the mind kind of in its weakest state, and that's where we go to work and really start to help these people apply the things that we're teaching them at the same time. And for me, I've known throughout 23 the importance of it, and truly believed in everything that we were teaching. But it's a whole different thing, like I said, the next year when I'm sitting here using these things for myself. It was I was very thankful to have that, for sure, because I don't know, I can't even imagine where I would be physically, mentally, anything if I didn't have those tools already fresh and ready to go when I needed them. It's a process that, I mean, you got to keep learning and keep working at.
You said that on the beginning that you were very thankful for the tools that you learned that you were able to use for yourself. But even before that, you talked about the guys that were able to make an impact on you. So can you share a little bit about the importance of a tribe, of having the right people around you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's probably one of the main things that I talk about, and obviously, having the group of guys that I have, it they're a lot of what I talk about. But again, it's one of those things where you don't truly feel the impact and the importance of that until you have it. I mean, before you have it, yeah, we've got friends and we've got people, acquaintances that we hang out with, and different levels of relationships, and that all seems great, and it is. But until you have a group of people that you can, I mean, literally, I've never called a group of people a tribe before. I've never felt the need to label a group of people that. There's nothing in me that wants to call them anything else now, these people, because I feel like that is what it is. We are a group of people that are in it to help each other. We're in it to help others, and we are going to be as open and honest on that path as we can. And you know what I really like to also add to this conversation when I talk about it is, this is a group that, just like you talked about the fire service, it has some costs associated to it. This is a group of people that, from the outside looking in, if you're just somebody seeing this group of people, you're like, man, I would love to be a part of that group of guys. There's some bigger names in there, and there's some guys that look like they know what the heck they're doing. But to be a part of that group, it has nothing to do with status or name or location. It has to do with a membership fee that most people are not going to be okay with paying. Those people that are in that tribe have been broken. Those people have been at the lowest part of life that people can get to. People that are lucky to be here today. There's people that have lost their careers because of certain situations and lost who they were. And I mean, just every story under the sun you can think of, that's why they're there. That's why Rick has assembled this group of people, because if you aren't somebody that has been there, has been in that dark spot, has been in those places that some people never make it out of, you don't know how to help others that are there. And that's that cost that, I mean, everybody in that group has paid a different cost, but I guarantee you they're all way more expensive than most people would ever be willing to pay. And that's not to try to, you know, brag about something stupid like that, or make it seem, you know, super cool or whatever. It's truly something that is part of the foundation of who we are. And so to really, I guess, to go beyond that, if you are somebody that is wanting that, I always say you're going to attract what you put out. If you want a group of people that is going to be right there for you, that is going to be close, and, you know, just open and honest about everything, that's who you have to be. Because when you're that person, the people that are sugarcoating everything, and just surface talking, and short stroking all this, you know, the crap that nobody cares about, they get uncomfortable, and they don't want to talk about it. That's great. I don't That's not who I want to be around with anyway. I want to be around the people that are real people, and that starts with me. And I think that's the most important piece of all of this. If that's something that you're missing in your life, then you have to start looking at the person that you're putting out into the world, and who you want to be surrounded by. And so if those two things aren't lining up, that's where we need to start. We need to start bringing those two things together, becoming the person that we want to be surrounded by, and want to build a tribe of people like that. And that's kind of the, I guess, the step one of that whole process.
Yeah, having people that are going to help you achieve more and be successful and be the person that you're called to be is definitely it's definitely the way to go. So Jeremy, we've been going for about an hour, and I appreciate you taking the time to come in and have these conversations with me, and open up your really open up your heart uh, to me and to us. And I appreciate you being vulnerable. And I wanted to give you the opportunity as well to share a little bit more about crew first culture. And also, I know that you have two of those tactical resiliency classes that are coming up, one in Atlanta in May, and then you
Yep.
also have one at firemanship in July. So tell us a little bit about how people can get into those classes and how they can perhaps get in touch with you and look you up in crew first culture.
Yeah, absolutely. So the firemanship one for sure, I know, has been full. I think probably since the day it opened up. I'm not. I haven't heard for sure on MAFC, the Metro Atlanta Fire Conference that's in mid-May. I would assume it's probably full, just because, like I said, it's only 20 spots, and you just, it doesn't take very long to fill those up. But it doesn't hurt to go check either. So if it is something you're interested in, definitely check and see if there are spots available, or you can put yourself on a list or something. But yeah, I have struggled a lot, and this is something that Tuna and Mark, you know, the three of us talk a lot. We struggle with that problem of having this material that is so valuable and so pivotal, and not being able to share it with very many people. And so it's just the format of the class. It just makes it so stinking hard to do it more than, you know, a couple times a year. But I think you're going to start seeing more of the instructors of this group sharing that information in their own ways, and as classes and different things, just because we feel so strongly about it. And I mean, I know Tuna talked about a couple classes he's creating on when you had him on. He's working on a few things. I have a couple classes that are basically, it's some of the material of that class kind of blended in, and so that's how we're going to kind of fix the problem for now. At least put our spin, our message in that information. That one of those classes is one I'm going to be teaching at MAFC here in May. I'll be teaching two classes. That class is called Through the Darkness, which is a lot of what we're talking about today. It's the stories that we live, the dark times, and the tools that we can use to get us through and get us to the other side. And so I feel really, really strongly about that, obviously, and really glad to be able to share that message, and hope that there's a lot of people there to listen, because I think there's a lot of people out there that need to hear it, honestly. The other class I'm teaching there is maximizing our impact, and that's another class that, I mean, these are two classes that are really my favorite to teach. The most emotionally invested I am in anything are these two classes. The impact one is how we as people can use what we have to make the biggest influence. Just starting where you're at and using what you have, and doing what you can, basically, is what it's built off of. And I love sharing that message as well. So if you're available, I know Tuna said the same thing, but MAFC, I would love to see you out there and see full classrooms for those two classes, because I think that the material and the conversation that we had would be well worth it. So definitely looking forward to that.
Jeremy, once again, thank you so much for coming in and spending some time with us. Um, Again, guys, go follow Crew First Culture. You can find Jeremy, I believe, Instagram, Facebook. He also has a podcast out there. So a lot of the stuff that he shared here today, he shares on his platform. So go give him a like, go subscribe to his stuff. Also, don't forget to subscribe and share this podcast if this is something that has meant something to you, or that could help somebody else. Just help us get this message out there. And once again, thank you for spending some time with us, and we'll see you guys next time.